Hello, everybody, and welcome back into Gamecock Central. My name is Kendall Smith, joined alongside of Wes Mitchell here on this lovely, sunny Tuesday morning in Columbia, South Carolina. And Wes, it seems like the birds are chirping a little bit louder. The sun is shining a little bit brighter because last night, South Carolina football getting some major news. Juice Wells, South Carolina's leading receiver from 2022, is coming back to Columbia for the 2023 season. Huge news for South Carolina. And Wes, I just want to know your initial thoughts on Juice's post last night and the big announcement.
Yeah, obviously massive news for South Carolina, Kendall. I mean, I think you look at college football today, if you want to be good on offense, you need at least one sort of dynamic wide receiver. And, we saw Juice sort of emerge to be that guy for South Carolina this year. He had the two huge games at the end, but really, if you look at what he did all year, I mean, a pretty consistent effort from Juice Wells, just emerged as their top guy. I think coming in, you knew he had a chance to be that, but Josh Vann was the leading returning receiver coming into this season, and Juice just sort of took the spot on this offense and said, "I'm the guy." And I think for Carolina, getting him back, which I think was truly up in the air there for a little bit, is really big. And then, of course, if you're Spencer Rattler, you're making your sort of final decisions here, your final thoughts on making a decision yourself, knowing that you got your guy back, your number one target. That's got to play into that decision as well, because both those guys, they've let each other sort of go through the process, but they've also been in communication about what each other are thinking.
Well, you mentioned Spencer Rattler there, and Juice said back in Jacksonville when he was speaking with the media prior to the Gator Bowl that he was going to see what his quarterback was going to do when it came to that NFL decision. We haven't heard anything from Spencer Rattler yet as to whether or not he's going to stay at South Carolina or leave for the NFL draft. But like you said, Wes, you would have to think that Juice's decision may play a role in Spencer's decision as well. So just talk about the impact that you think Juice coming back could have on a guy like Spencer Rattler.
Well, I think it just makes it easier for you. If you're Rattler and you're coming back, and I think it is pointing that direction right now, then you want to feel like coming back will help your draft stock, obviously. And if you're having to replace all the guys around you, then maybe you're saying, well, actually, maybe I should just take my chance at the NFL. Well, if you know you have Juice back, you can look. Yeah, Carolina lost some offensive linemen, but they're getting Jalen Nichols back. They're getting Ja'Kai Moore back. Tyshawn Wanamaker has started a bunch of games. Vershawn Lee is back. You're kind of looking around and you're saying, all right, I can work with this. But obviously, I think Juice Wells maybe comes back with the title of best player on this team. Like, I don't think that's far-fetched at all. Again, you need a dynamic receiver to be really good offensively. You need that guy who you can feel comfortable one-on-one situations, just putting the ball up, making plays. We saw him do that against Tennessee. We saw him do that against Clemson down the stretch. And those two guys have really connected from the very beginning. Juice went out to Arizona to work out with Spencer in the offseason prior to this past season. And I would look for that connection, that relationship to only grow from here, assuming Spencer Rattler does come back.
And Spencer talked to me earlier in the year prior to the season, and I was asking him about some of his favorite guys on the team and guys that he spent a lot of time with, and Juice was one of the first names out of his mouth. So like you said, not just a connection on the field, but off of the field as well. And Juice had a breakout year this season. I mean, he was great at James Madison, where he was prior to coming to South Carolina via the transfer portal. But this year he was second in receiving yards and catches in the SEC, second to Jalen Hyatt, who was probably the best receiver in the entire country. He led South Carolina in basically every statistic when it came to receivers. So great year for Juice. And he easily could have gone into the NFL draft, West. So what went into his decision to come back to South Carolina?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of things. And I think if you're him, you have to sort of weigh the benefits, pros and cons of coming back versus going ahead and taking your chance at the NFL. I look at Juice's ability. I look at what he did this year, the fact that he is now on everybody's radar. If he can come back and do similar things to what he did this past season while continuing to hone his craft at the SEC level, working under Justin Stepp, who does a phenomenal job of developing wide receivers, then I think he plays his way into being, a potential first or second round pick even. And I think that factored into this. Obviously, there are always in this day and age going to be NIL factors. But the great thing about NIL these days is that it allows a player not to be forced to leave just for that aspect of it. Where 5 years ago, you maybe feel like you have to just go ahead and take your chance at the NFL. So, I think coming back, he's got a chance to play his way up into being a high draft pick. And, to sort of take it a little bit further too, I think Juice Wells, I think his impact goes beyond the field too. We've seen how he carries himself on the field. We've seen the way his teammates look up to him. Look at the final play against Clemson where they said, get the ball to Juice. This is a guy who internally motivates the South Carolina football team. He's a guy who you want to sort of go to battle with. And I think going into this offseason, South Carolina just started classes back, going to be starting those workouts up. Having this guy with his attitude, with his swagger, I think it sort of permeates the rest of this offense as well.
And no doubt getting a player like that back certainly helps South Carolina when it comes to the portal. The initial portal period is about to end in mid-January. I believe the day is January 18th that the portal closes for this period. But then after spring practice, you'll have a whole other group of guys that will enter the portal during that second transfer period. So a guy like Juice coming back certainly elevates the offense. If you're Dow Loggins, South Carolina's new offensive coordinator, you have got to be happy about this return from your top receiver in the 2022 season. Like we said, huge news for the South Carolina Gamecocks. Juice Wells returning, the leading receiver from last year. He'll be back in 2023. We're now just waiting on Spencer Rattler's decision, which, Wes, that's going to come in less than a week because the draft deadline for the NFL is Monday, January 16th.
Yeah, it's got to come soon. And I don't really think it's going to go all the way to the 16th. I think this thing is winding down. I think Carolina fans should find out pretty soon. And, all indications are they could be getting some good news here soon. So some momentum building for the Gamecocks. And then, of course, we'll be tracking the transfer portal to see if they can maybe add another guy or two. And then we'll start to have a real feel for what this spring roster is going to look like for the Gamecocks.
Time is going to fly by so fast. Just finished up the Gator Bowl. Before you know it, we'll be in spring practice and then the spring game. Then you just got to suffer through the summer and you'll be right back at football season come next September. So very exciting times for South Carolina football. Wes, appreciate all of your insight as always. And thank you to everybody for watching. If you want to stay updated on all things South Carolina football, all things South Carolina sports for that matter, you can head over to GamecockCentral.com and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, the whole 9 yards at Gamecock Central. We will keep you updated with all you need to know, all the breaking news analysis. We've got you covered on Gamecock Central. Wes, thank you so much. Thanks everybody for watching. He's Wes Mitchell. I'm Kendall Smith. Thanks for watching Gamecock Central.